What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart, but of course, the big news is that the Russell 2000 was capable of setting a new all-time high yesterday and closing on top of any all-time high price. While pulling back from it this morning, we did see the same thing over there on Total 2, that it did actually just squeak out a new all-time high close above 2021 on the exact same day that the Russell 2000 did. It has taken a whopping 3 years and 10 months, but both of them do that on the exact same day. I put out a few tweets yesterday highlighting this as Total 2 did it, along with the Russell 2000 being able to do it at the same time and kind of zooming in on some of these candles. I've got these outlined on here for you right here with the Russell 2000. We'll take a look over at them really fast. You can see this is the November of 2021 high where the peak was set. However, the price ended up closing down here about 30 points lower. Then you shift over here to 2024 and you can see that it actually set a new all-time high over here. However, the price closed still below that 2021 level, about 20 points below that peak. Then, of course, we went into all the chaos that came from April and the tariff drama, and then we come all the way back up. And now here we are for the first time. We actually get a new all-time high mixed with an actual close above 2021. And so that's a pretty aggressive candle to go do that with. Today, we're going to be watching to see how this next candle ends up closing, because now we're going to end up closing out the week. Obviously, we have the all-time high up here. Then we have the highest weekly closes coming in right here for the Russell 2000. We're through all of them. We're still on top of the high before the market kicks open. But obviously, we're not just looking for something to just barely squeak into new highs and then not be able to sustain it. We'd like to see the week close here, and then as we go into the next week, a continuation to confirm that it is an actual breakout. What we have gotten up here, we've closed a day up here. We still need to close the week and then continuation into next week. Because if there's continuation into next week, then we have an actual breakout. And I think just by looking over here at the altcoin market, it's not quite convinced yet that it's gotten a signal of actual breakout, as it still is just ranging within here. Even though we got the close above the high, it's still in a range way up in here, which on the right side of your screen's just little guy right in here. But I think that, when you get things like this to happen, it should hit everybody a little bit that you can go 3 years and 10 months and that you can close into a brand new all-time high for the Russell 2000 and for the Total 2 on the exact same day. These are things that we've talked about on this channel for years. It's been like beating the same thing in over and over again. Frankly, I don't want to really take a victory lap for it, because it's not something it's not something to be like, oh, I called that. It's something to say, look, I've been trying to say this for forever, that it's unequivocal. There's no debate to be had. These asset classes are tied together, and all the narratives that we have that go along with it should be questioned if this is, more of just an extremely high beta play to the equity market. And I've often said, get macro right and you'll get crypto right. So rather than staring at each individual chart saying, when's this pump going to happen? It's been so much of this zooming out and looking further out, right? If you're an XRP holder, it's all about, well, we got to look to Bitcoin to see something to happen. If we want to look to Bitcoin to see something, we have to look to equity markets to see something that's going to happen. We have to tie in the picture of gold. We have to tie in the picture of the Russell 2000, all for it to lead back to that one thing, right? And so right now, obviously, our big thing is to say, hey, are we going to close out Friday into a brand new all-time high? Get the highest weekly close in history, get an all-time high close, and then get a continuation to happen there on Monday. Because if there's a continuation on Monday, we get an actual breakout. And if we have an actual breakout, that should transpire into the cryptocurrency market based on historical relationships between the equity markets and the crypto market. And we know that those relationships still exist because we just got the Russell close and we just got the Total 2 close on the same day. And it took 3 years and 10 months for that to happen. So you guys have seen these charts here on the screen before. Obviously, that's the big thing we're watching for right there. We know that Bitcoin has moved along with the S&P 500, Dow Jones, and the NASDAQ, as there's been breadth issues in this market for the last several years. That's why the Russell 2000 has not been able to escape. The altcoin market has not been able to escape. So we've, of course, been watching both of these together and preaching that message. As you can see, that Russell is now poked up above there right now, and that altcoin market trying to do the same thing. And I think there's 1,000 things we could talk about here here on the channel to try to fill time to make this video as long as humanly possible, but I just think there's nothing really to talk about outside of saying, let's see that Russell continue today and into next week. And if it does, then we should probably see the rest of the market transpire with it too. As when the Russell was able to break out of itself back in 2020, of course, that's where Bitcoin went and followed along with it as well. And so that's obviously what we're looking for right now. There's 1,000 things we can talk about in regards to chart structures. You get Ethereum pushing up there. You got the Bitcoin dominance looking exceptionally weak over here on these indicators. We can harp that over and over again. But frankly, the only thing I am watching today is that. That's the only thing I care about. It's blatantly obvious. These markets are all tied together. You don't get those closes to happen like that on the exact same day 3 years and 10 months later by sheer coincidence. So today, that's the big watch for the market. Bitcoin, there's not too much to say in here as it's still just trying to present its cards on if this is more of just a back test of these highs that's producing one of these things to still go on and produce its parabola, or if it's going to end up being a retrace and we see the dominance fall into that retrace. I just don't have the conviction on Bitcoin currently for that. I keep reiterating that my focus here is actually on the altcoin market because I think there's this huge catch up that has to happen and that this is where the true story is right now. And I'll definitely need more coming out of Bitcoin to have a true strong opinion on it in here. But obviously things like Ethereum bucking up against its high while total 2 is setting these closes and while the Russell 2000 is setting these closes. It's all about watching for this altcoin market to get shot out of here and get the green light from the Russell. It feels like we got on the starting gates, but like the light turned green, but everybody's kind of looking at each other like, hey, was that the green light or not? But just like Bitcoin back in 2020 and things we're talking about over here with Ethereum, it's unequivocal for Bitcoin in 2020. We brought this up many times, right? What happens? The Russell gets out, Bitcoin gets out. What are we at right now over here on Ethereum? The Russell is getting out right when we're here, right? You get here, Russell escapes. You get here, Russell escapes. So like the cards are set. We're just going to watch these weekly closes and see if we get our actual weekly closes and the continuation into next week. And so that's my big focus for today. It's more of just sit back and wait for the United States stock market to close and see what it tells the crypto market to do throughout the weekend. Because we have waited a long time to see that show up. And now we're going to wait to see what that says for the rest of the market to do into the weekend and next week. As the White House says, don't be a panicking on a new S&P 500 high, which we've seen many of them. But let's be real. There's probably a reason that tweet was made, and it wasn't about the S&P 500. So as we've spent a lot of time looking at the technical behavior of the market and things like Ethereum and the altcoin market getting back and these crash, retrace, reaccumulation structures that have happened back in here, shooting your way back to the highs, looking for the breakout to come. What are the things that we look for to happen in here? It's just what we saw last time is for macro to be able to cooperate at the same time and shoot it into a brand new all-time high. That's where we're at right now, guys. A big moment, looking for continuation, looking for a confirmed weekly close. And then if we get it, I don't know how you're not supposed to be optimistic about what's happening here. So I always love moments that happen like this because we often talk about things like confluence and sometimes things just line up exactly when they're supposed to. And that there's probably a lot of processing people may have to do when it comes to what their opinion is of the cryptocurrency market or what their thesis of the cryptocurrency market is, that it takes 3 years and 10 months for those events to occur and those milestones to happen on the exact same day. Not 2 days apart, not a week apart, which still, even if it was, you would sit there and say, yep, see, look. But for it to happen on the exact same day, I think it probably opens a lot of people's eyes if they had any doubt at this point. So it's exciting. Let's see how the day ends. Let's see how the week ends, and then we'll check in on it again next week. But all right, that's going to be it for this one, guys. That's going to wrap up the week. You guys can check out the newsletter over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. I just published this one over here earlier this week. The biggest cycle event arrives, knocking on all-time high and a catalyst. Bitcoin, altcoins, and stocks on the edge with the Fed decision fate, developer and user activity stats. It's got a 43-minute audio recording, so after I write these, I personally record all of them as well and go through the charts. There's a link down here in the description of this video to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Have yourself an absolutely wonderful weekend, and hopefully it's met with the celebration of a Russell 2000 all-time high close, but we'll find out together. All right, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.